Hey everyone, Data here, and welcome back to another NHL 22 career simulation. Today, going through the career of Cutter Gauthier, the 5th overall selection in the 2022 NHL Draft, as he was selected by the Philadelphia Flyers. Cutter Gauthier was a very highly suggested player in our last few career simulations, so as always it goes to show that the more a player is suggested, the more likely they will get done. So a lot of Flyer fans are excited for this one today, absolutely. Cutter Gauthier is 1 to 2 years away. He's committed to Boston University for 2022-23. He is a 6'2" power forward who is a great skater, strong defensively, has a great shot, struggles a little bit when it comes to picking up the puck and making the right decision, but when he is skating with the puck, it is hard to get him off of it. Gauthier has great offensive abilities, as we have seen in 2021-22 with the US National U18 team. In 54 games, he had 34 goals and 65 points, and with Team USA at the U18s, he helped his team win the silver medal as he scored 3 goals and 9 points in 6 games. As we begin today's career simulation, going over his overall potential and X factors, all stuff like that, he is a 76 overall. He's not in the game. He wasn't on the IIHF squad, so I had to totally create Cutter Gauthier myself. I'm already nervous to show you the attributes, because I know someone's going to say, what? 84 skating? It should have been 85 skating. So I'm already looking forward to all of those comments down there. But I'm sticking with what I went with. He is a 76 overall out of the draft because I'm expecting him to make the NHL in 1 to 2 years. If he's a 68 overall, it'll take 3-4 years. If he's a 79 overall, he'll make the NHL right away. 76 is kind of that sweet spot. As a top 5 pick, I gave him medium elite potential. 6'2", 201 pounds. I put him as left wing center, not center left wing, because most of the projections I was looking at saw Gauthier as a winger if he was going to be a top 6 player in the NHL, more of a middle 6 centerman. But if he's going to be a top line player, it's more likely in that winger position, even though he is strong defensively. But, you know, I can't see the future in that regard. Maybe he will be a centerman. That being said, here are his attributes. Great shooting, 3 stars right there. Really great accuracy and power, 83s and 84s. Both his offensive and defensive awarenesses are at 82. His puck skills aren't super strong, as when it comes to controlling the puck and stuff like that, he seems to have some troubles at times, but he is a very strong skater, 85 acceleration, 84 speed, very strong as well. He has 86 strength, 86 body checking, 82 durability, 81 aggressiveness. For the X factors, I gave him a zone ability of unstoppable force, exceptional strength with the puck, and greatly increased ability to hold onto the puck when off balance. When he has that puck, it's hard to hit him off. That's why he also has big rig, great drive to the net. Elite edges for great agility in direction changes, Schneip for the great puck settling and taking those wristers, and truculence for great hit. So as always, as we run through this simulation, we're taking control of a different team in the NHL. Everything in the entire league is set to automatic, so please don't get upset if a team that you don't like wins the Stanley Cup. Every single thing is automated by the AI general managers. I have no control over it. Injuries are turned on, all that normal stuff. Cutter Gauthier's career, of course, will begin with the Philadelphia Flyers at the 2022 draft. Will he become a pillar with the Flyers and help turn their franchise around? Will he maybe leave sooner rather than later and move on to bigger and potentially better things? Where does he make a name for himself in the league? Does he win any awards along the way? Stanley Cups, records broken, franchise league records, those are all the things that we're here to see. So it's a huge job, a lot of simulation, but a lot of fun, so I hope that you'll enjoy it. If you do, be sure to leave a like as well as a comment with what you did enjoy. And of course, if you haven't already, do consider subscribing, as we've been made aware of all of our career simulations, our NHL 22 franchise mode, breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, and much, much more. With all that being said, let's move forward to the 2022 draft and get Gauthier to the Flyers. And with the 5th overall selection in the draft, exactly 5th, pretty rare that it lines up exactly as we want it to. Cutter Gauthier is drafted to the Philadelphia Flyers, 76 overall, medium elite, all those attributes still the same. He gained 1 pound over the last year, so keep that in mind. Had 33 goals and 64 assists with whatever magical US national team you want to imagine. All of his attributes are still the same, I believe, so nothing much to say right there. All the X factors are on board. As always, the league is messed up from what it actually is. Players are drafted to different teams. That's why this is not a simulation of the NHL for 20 whatever years. This is just a simulation of Cutter Gauthier's career. So we'll be following him. Of course, the league around him, it will always be impossible to make it exactly reflective of the real world, but we'll do our best. And we have Cutter Gauthier here on the Flyers, so we'll see how he looks in 2022-23, and where he'll likely be, since there's no Boston University in NHL 22, is in the AHL system. Year number 1, and Cutter Gauthier finds himself as the first-line centerman on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, the Flyers AHL affiliate. He has Garrett Wilson on his left and Connor McLennan on his right, a 78 overall sniper who may be part of the Flyers' future with Gauthier. This is a great opportunity for him, playing first-line minutes, first power play unit, hopefully some good growth from the 18-year-old who now finds himself as a 76 overall and listed as a minor checking forward. I believe all of his attributes are still the same as when he was drafted. Obviously, Boston University, where he will actually be for 2022-23, not in the game, so we're here in the AHL system, but the question will be, how long does he stay here? With great ice time opportunities and decent line mate, at least in McLennan, we'll see how Gauthier does in 2022-23. In year number 1, with Cutter Gauthier as their first-line center, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms finished 16th in the AHL, making the postseason with a record of 44, 32, and 6. Gauthier didn't have a particularly crazy offensive season, but still a solid 22 goals and 32 assists for 54 points, playing in all 82 games. He was 4th in team scoring and even plus-minus, threw in 10 power play points along the way, and averaged almost 20.5 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, the Phantoms dropped in 5 games to Bridgeport, who lost in 7 to Springfield, who would go on to win the Calder Cup. Although it was a first-round exit, it's good to see that they went at least 5 games. And in those 5 games, Cutter Gauthier played in 4 of them and scored 2 goals. He was a -4, unfortunately. Both of his goals came on the power play, by the way, and he was only playing just over 18 minutes per night. With that season over and done, Cutter Gauthier grows to a 78 overall and is now listed as a 4th-line forward. Will that be enough to make the NHL next season? Time will tell. His offensive and defensive awarenesses are both up to 84. His physical is up to 4 stars, and his puck skills are also slowly growing. So hopefully with more growth over the 2023 offseason, he'll be ready to make his case to crack the NHL lineup come 2023-24. In year number 2, Cutter Gauthier is still with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Connor McLennan made the team as an 80 overall, but Gauthier is still 78, so Flyers management said, hey, let's go for one more year of getting a little bit better. He's now first-line left wing as Lachinski's playing center and Patrick Brown is first-line right wing. I believe all of his attributes are the same as how we left him off after year number 1. So now as a winger, we'll see how that changes his production, and hopefully his growth continues into the 80 overalls, and he'll be able to make his case next season. But for right now, it's all about the Phantoms. Oh, wow. In year number 2, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms make the postseason with a sub-500 record as they finish 24th in the AHL at a record of 36, 37, and 9. 81 points gets into the postseason thanks to an extremely weak Atlantic division. Wow, the wonders of the American Hockey League. Cutter Gauthier had a difficult season as he was 2nd in team scoring but only scored 20 goals and 26 assists for 46 points, 8 less points than that season when being a higher overall, but understandably it seems as though the team just was not firing on all cylinders to say the least. He finished as a -1 on the year with 7 power play points and registered over 20 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, the Phantoms were very understandably swept by the Checkers, who went on to lose to Bridgeport, who went on to lose the Calder Cup to the Milwaukee Admirals, who won in 7. In those 3 fateful games, Cutter Gauthier did in fact score 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points. So you know what? At least he ended off the season strong, and he does stay at a 78 overall, unfortunately, although he does grow to 6'3", now 205 pounds. As we always say, the bones didn't fuse together just yet, so he's now 6'3", and hopefully going to be pushing for the NHL. I don't see any attributes that stand out as ones that have changed over the course of the season, but hopefully over the 2024 offseason, they will increase enough so that he can crack the NHL lineup. I think this follows a realistic trajectory for Gauthier, as he'll likely do Boston University for 1 year, maybe the Phantoms for another year, and hopefully 2024-25 will be his NHL debut. Year number 3, and Cutter Gauthier is ready to make his NHL debut with the Philadelphia Flyers here in 2024-25. Obviously, the Flyers are looking very different than how they will likely look in 2024. Sebastian Aho, a huge free agent signing for the Flyers as he signs a 7-year deal in Philadelphia. Evgeny Malkin signs a 1-year deal with the Flyers. Crazy. Obviously, that would probably never happen. but here it is happening. Cutter Gauthier, also the second line center over Cutter Gauthier, who's third line center, so this will change over the course of the season. But to start the year, Cutter Gauthier is an 81 overall, still listed as a fourth line forward, but with medium league potential. There is a great possibility that he will grow very well, especially if he maintains a top 6 role. His offensive and defensive awarenesses are both at 86. Bobby Brink on his left and Travis Konechny on his right. It's a bit of a weird lineup, but it's a strong lineup for the Flyers, and hopefully this rookie season for Gauthier is a good one, as Philadelphia has Provorov, Severson, York at an 84, Carter Hart at an 88 overall, but on the last year of his deal. Signing that big contract for Sebastian Aho may be costly down the road for Philadelphia, but right now they are strong, and Cutter Gauthier has a top 6 role for his rookie season. In year number 3, Cutter Gauthier's rookie season, the Flyers missed out on the postseason as they finished 23rd in the league with a .500 record of 38, 38, and 6. As is becoming pretty common with the Flyers, they had a very strong start to the year, but a weak second half caused their downfall. In his rookie season, Cutter Gauthier played in 77 out of 82 games and scored 15 goals and 21 assists for 36 points. He was a -13 and racked up 50 penalty minutes while scoring 4 power play points. He averaged over 18 minutes a night of ice time, so kudos to him for that. But of course, Cutter Gauthier likely had a bigger role in the end. He scored 62 points. At the end of his rookie season, he grows to an 82 overall. Hopefully more growth over the offseason will see him get into the mid-80s perhaps for his sophomore season. But at the end of his rookie year, he has 4-star shooting, 4.5-star physical. He's 21 years of age, got a little bit of experience with some very skilled players, and will hopefully be ready to run it back in year number 4. Year number 4, Cutter Gauthier's sophomore season in the NHL, and he is once again centering the second line here in Philadelphia. Some big names joining in free agency as Nick Ehlers signs a 7-year deal, Tage Thompson signs a deal as an 85 overall for 4 years here in Philadelphia. So of course, you're going to start to notice as things go on, there are players who leave and players who join who probably never would in real life, but to be in year number 4 with 8 of the top 12 forwards being players who are currently in Philadelphia's organization, it's actually a lot better than it could be here in EA land. So please take that with a grain of salt. On defense, York and Ristolainen are still here, and goaltending, Carter Hart is still between the pipes as he signed a 2-year contract. So Cutter Gauthier is now up to an 85 overall. The lines are still a bit weird because Couturier is a real centerman and Gauthier is more of a winger, but you know, with 70 faceoffs, he's out there. 88 offensive and defensive awarenesses, shooting all between 87 and 90, and physical now up to 5 stars. Let's see what Cutter Gauthier can do in 2025-26 and whether or not the Flyers will be able to make the postseason with these new additions. In year number 4, the Philadelphia Flyers finished 3rd last in the NHL with a 30th place finish. The Sabres, the Oilers, the Coyotes are all around here, so not much has changed in 2026. It was a 36-45-1 season. In his sophomore season, Cutter Gauthier played in all 82 games for the first time in his career, scoring 22 goals and 19 assists for 41 points. New career high in goals and points. Not hard to do that, but just to note, he was an even plus-minus, 44 penalty minutes, 9 power play points, while averaging just 7 seconds shy of 18 minutes per night. With this season under his belt, he heads into the final of his ELC, still at an 85 overall. Not much has changed aside from the puck skills, which are all now between 88 and 90. Now a very well-rounded player. Can't blame him too much on a team that wasn't doing so hot. Goaltending, Carter Hart was actually pretty good. Only played in 31 games though, so it must have been a major injury to Carter Hart, which did the Flyers in. Speaking of injuries, Cutter Gauthier also only played in 55 games. He scored 41 points, so him being out of the lineup was another big hit. Regardless, we're headed to the final year of Gauthier's ELC with a lot of growth, but not a lot of points so far. So will they go bridge? Will they go long term? Let's see what year number 5 has in store. Year number 5 for Cutter Gauthier and the Flyers, and he's once again centering the second line with Connor McLennan, an 83 overall now, on his right, and Samuel Fagemo on his left. Not sure why Gauthier doesn't go on the left wing and Couturier bumps up and becomes the second line center, or maybe bump up Farabee or Thompson, but hey, I'm not the manager of the Flyers. Chuck Fletcher can decide all of that. Cutter Gauthier is still an 85 overall now at the age of 22. His puck skills are all between 88 and 90. Great to see that. Defensive and offensive awareness is both at 87, but it is the final year of his entry-level contract. So Cutter Gauthier, after a 36 and a 41-point season last couple of years, he'll want his third to be a breakout season, which will pay him the big bucks headed into next year. But for right now, let's just focus on making the postseason. Carter Hart is up to an 89 overall. There's no reason why this team should miss, and hopefully Cutter Gauthier will be a big reason why they do make it. In year number 5, the Philadelphia Flyers make it back to the postseason in a big way as they finish 5th in the NHL with 100 points and a record of 47, 29, and 6. Cutter Gauthier did exactly what we were hoping for from him as he played in all 82 games and scored 29 goals and 40 assists for 69 points, new career highs in all of those categories. He was a plus 19, had 71 penalty minutes, understandable, 15 power play points, and was logging 18.49 per night. Shout out to Nolan Patrick as well, who's back in Philadelphia, seemingly a trade deadline acquisition, and he played 83 games on the season. In the postseason, the Flyers were matched up with the 4th place team in the NHL, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Really tough draw as the 4th and 5th best teams in the NHL had to go at it in round number 1. The Blue Jackets edged out the Flyers in a 7-game thriller before they went on to lose in 7 themselves in the Eastern Conference Final to the Lightning, who got swept out of the Cup final by the Kings. In those 7 games, the Flyers had a ton of offense. Cutter Gauthier contributed 1 goal and 5 assists for 6 points through those 7 games. And after his first ever postseason berth and wrapping up his ELC, he now grows to an 87 overall. Coming off that 69-point season, the postseason and all that, I think that Cutter Gauthier would think, I can at least sign a little bit of an extension here in Philadelphia. Will they go shorter or longer term? That is the question. 5-star physical at the 90 aggressiveness, 95 body checking, 4.5-star shooting. Headed into the 2027 offseason, hopefully the Flyers can stay strong, and Gauthier will be excited to sign long-term in Philadelphia. Year number 6, and the Flyers are still looking strong in their offensive core. Everyone between an 80 and a 90 overall. Cutter Gauthier is centering the second line with Bobby Brink on his right and Fagemo on his left. He is now an 88 overall and signed a 3-year extension with the Flyers, paying him $10.335 million per season, giving him a total of $31 million and $5,000. Don't forget the $5,000. Cutter Gauthier, I'm not sure if that'll keep him as an RFA once it's over, but it does open the door to a longer extension once these 3 years are up. For the moment, he's an 88 overall with crazy attributes. Only the 5-star physical, but 4.5 shooting and puck skills, and 4-star senses, skating, and defense. On defense, Cam York's still around, and in goaltending, Carter Hart signed an extension as an 89 overall for 6 more years, so he will be in Philly long term. But will Gauthier and the rest of the core? But that is yet to be seen. So hopefully they can build on that great 5th place season last year as we head into a hopeful 2027-28. In year number 6, the Flyers go from 5th in the NHL to 25th in the NHL as they finish with a record of 41, 38, and 3. I don't know what happened to Cutter Gauthier, but he did not perform this season. 82 games and 29 goals is great. But you know, it did tie his career high in goals, but only 20 assists. I don't know if the playmaking wasn't there, his line mates or what, but a 49-point season from him. Playing in all 82 games, but still a -6 on the plus minus, 73 penalty minutes, 9 power play points, and logging 4 seconds shy of 20 minutes per night. All that to say, after year number 6, Gauthier's 4th in the NHL. He remains at an 88 overall and listed as a second-line forward. I don't think any of the attributes changed over the course of the season, and it's understandable as to why without really anything to push it in the positive direction. I'm surprised there wasn't even a little bit of regression. Most of the core is signed for at least the next couple of years or so before Gauthier becomes an unrestricted free agent in a couple of years' time. But we'll see if Philly can add to their team because this was a pretty weird postseason miss. Year number 7, and Cutter Gauthier has been moved from the center position to the left wing position now, as this player, Rodney Peckham, is the new second-line center. He was the 4th overall pick in 2026. He's a playmaker with 92 passing, so that should be a great boost for Gauthier. McLennan is on the right, down to an 81 overall, not as ideal, but he is a sniper. So the forward core is pretty solid. There's a few more 70-ish overall guys in here, which doesn't help, but hopefully the top guys will have more room to breathe a little bit. The defense is pretty solid. Cam York, one of the longest surviving Flyers at the moment. Still Carter Hart between the pipes as well. Sean Couturier still third-line center for some reason. But Gauthier at an 88 overall. Back-to-back 29-goal seasons. Can he crack .230 in his 5th year in the NHL, with a great playmaker as the centerman on his line. And now that he is in a winger role, maybe more of a scoring capacity, let's see what 2028-29 has in store for Gauthier on that second line left wing spot. In year number 7, the Flyers once again had a .500 record, a slight improvement as they finished 22nd in the NHL, but still no postseason as they went 37, 37, and 8. Cutter Gauthier improved on last season as he scored 62 points and set a new career high in goals with 33. He did all that in 77 games and added 29 assists. 62 and 77, not bad at all. Bobby Brink was out for a good part of the season. The Flyers have been plagued with a few major injuries the last few years, which has been hurting them, evidenced once again by another postseason miss. Gauthier was a +5 with 67 penalty minutes and 14 power play points, all while logging just over 19.5 minutes per night. He also had 3 shorthanded goals, so it looks like he's getting some penalty kill time. Maybe I missed that previously, but good to see that just as he's been projected in the real world, he's getting power play, penalty kill, and lots of even strength. After this 5th season in the NHL and 7th overall, Cutter Gauthier grows to an 89 overall, maintaining his 5-star physical, 97 body checking and strength, 4.5-star shooting, 4.5-star defense. I'm very excited for 2029-30, which will be the final year of that 3-year bridge that he signed, which may bring him to unrestricted free agency. So if he's going out with Philly next season, let's hope it's with a bang and that Flyers management can get this team to the postseason once again. Year number 8 for Cutter Gauthier and the Flyers, and he is finally on the first line here in Philadelphia with his 3-year bridge coming to an end. They're trying to butter him up a little bit, playing with Sebastian Aho and Nick Ehlers. Second line, McLennan, Peckham, and Brink. Sean Couturier still here as an 84 overall at the age of 36. Gauthier now at an 89 overall with great line mates. This is a recipe for success in my mind. With the attributes being what they are, I'm not sure if much has changed since last season, but he's fast, he's strong, he shoots, he can handle the puck. This could be something very, very special. But it may also be costly for the Flyers as it won't be cheap to re-sign him. Will this be his last year in Philadelphia? Can he go out with a bang? Let's see what happens here in 2029-30. In year number 8, the Philadelphia Flyers return to the postseason with a 15th place finish in the NHL, 89 points and a record of 41, 34, and 7. Cutter Gauthier didn't set any career highs, but he improved on last season as he scored 28 goals and 35 assists for a 63-point season as he played in 78 games. His line mates Aho and Ehlers also did very well, so great to see that. He was a +14 and had 78 penalty minutes. He is becoming notorious for those. 13 power play points while logging over 20.5 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, the Flyers went on a run as they swept through the Islanders in round number 1, took down the Jackets in 7 in round number 2, but in the Battle of Pennsylvania in the Eastern Conference Final, they dropped in 6 to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who would go on to win the 2030 Cup. In 6 years in Philly, it was the first time that Gauthier made it out of the first round, so great to see that. He only played in 10 out of the 17 games, so I guess an injury cost him some time, but he did go over a point per game with 4 goals and 8 assists for 12 points through those 10 games. He was a +8 along the way as well, and even though it was a disappointing loss, he does maintain his 89 overall status, 4.5-star shooting and puck skills to go along with a 5-star physical and 4-star everything else. Not sure how he has 90 discipline and so many penalty minutes, but not my business. Headed into the 2030 off-season, Cutter Gauthier is an unrestricted free agent. Sean Couturier needs a contract. Rodney Peckham needs a contract. He's done with the ELC. By the way, he's Hungarian. Didn't know that. Connor McLennan needs a contract. Will there be enough money for Cutter Gauthier? It will depend on Flyers management. So let's see where Gauthier lands for the 2030-31 season. In year number 9, after 6 years in Philadelphia, the Flyers chose McLennan and Couturier over Gauthier. They didn't have the money, I suppose, to sign him, so they went for 2 players instead of 1. And Gauthier signed with the Anaheim Ducks in free agency, a 6-year contract paying him over $11.5 million per season, giving him a total of just over $69 million for the next 6 years. It's a good team here in Anaheim. The top 6 is stacked. Gauthier is playing on the top line with this guy Richie. I don't know know why an 80 overalls here. That'll likely get changed over time. A first round pick, and Jack Roslovic, who's an 85. The second line is McTavish, who's an 86, Zegras at 88, and Lundstrom at 86. Josh Norris 85, Hayden at 84. It's a very solid forward core. Jamie Drysdale at an 88 is also on board, and the goaltending is Philip Gus the Bus Gustafson and Ilya Samsonov. So it's a good situation for Gauthier, and that allows him to rise to 90 overall over the offseason. That California air is getting to him. He now has 5-star puck skills after doing a little bit of training with Zegras, all between 90 and 92. After his 6 years in Philadelphia, Gauthier leaves the Flyers having scored 156 goals and 164 assists for 320 points in 478 games. He had one first-round exit and technically an Eastern Conference final as well, but only 17 games played in the postseason. It's really too bad that he left Philadelphia. It would have been tight, but I think they could have done it, but unfortunately he does move on to a bigger offer from the Ducks. 2030-31, year number 9, let's hit it. In year number 9, Cutter Gauthier's first with the Ducks. Anaheim finished 20th in the NHL, missing out on the postseason. They went 38, 35, and 9. Gauthier led the team in scoring, but it wasn't any kind of crazy pace. He does continue to improve over the last 3 years, going 62, 63, and now 65 points in all 82 games played. 24 goals and 41 assists, a new career high in assists. He was a -7 and registered 54 penalty minutes with 13 power play points, playing almost 20 and a half minutes per night. Not sure if it was the line combinations or what. Zegras also only 64 points from him. McTavish 61. So there's a lot of potential here in Anaheim that's not necessarily being tapped into. That being said, after his first season in Anaheim, Cutter Gauthier drops down to an 89 overall. His attributes are still fantastic, don't get me wrong, they're all great. Hopefully the Ducks can build on this first season, continue to find some chemistry, and headed into 2031-32, score a lot more goals, and make that postseason. Year number 10, Cutter Gauthier is 8th in the NHL, and he finds himself still on the first line in Anaheim, but thankfully now his centerman is Trevor Zegras. On the second line, it's McTavish and Hayton, and this guy, Tyler Lupul, Joffrey Lupul's son, found his way to Anaheim, a second-round pick with top 6 potential. Josh Norris is out here. On defense, there's Jamie Drysdale, and then at a 90 overall, and goaltending is Cedric Keefe, a high elite goalie, third-round pick in 2027, who's only signed for 1 more year, so it could be more of a carousel. Shout out to Isaac Ratcliffe, who came from Philadelphia and joined Cutter Gauthier, so there's a friend for Cutter. Even though the second-line center is a bit odd, that first line is stronger this season with Gauthier, Zegras, and Roslovic. Gauthier remains at an 89 overall. He did not go back up to a 90. He's listed as a second-line forward for some reason, but his attributes are still as lovely as ever. Give him Zegras as his centerman, and this could be a very different season here in Anaheim, as they will be striving to make the postseason in Gauthier's second time around. In year number 10, Cutter Gauthier is once again on the outside looking in with a team that had 40-plus wins as the Ducks finished 21st in the NHL. Not good enough for the postseason with a record of 40, 36, and 6. Gauthier didn't really do anything special in the point category despite being a first-line winger, so I'm very surprised in that regard. 22 goals and 37 assists, a 59-point season playing in all 82 games from Gauthier. He was a -2, 66 penalty minutes, 14 power play points, all while averaging almost 20 and a half minutes per night. Another short season from Gauthier. McTavish, Drysdale, Zegras all scored in the 70-plus, but Gauthier stuck in the 50s. With that season, he remains at an 89 overall, and his attributes don't seem to have changed, if at all. So is it the line mates? Is it how they're being utilized? I don't know what, but he had a great opportunity this season and didn't exactly run with it. So let's hope for more headed into 2032-33. Year number 11, and some more odd decisions when it comes to the lineup here in Anaheim, as Cutter Gauthier is playing first line left wing, but Lupul is his centerman, and at least he has Barrett Hayton on the wing, who's an 88 overall, but Trevor Zegras down on the second line. Mason McTavish no longer here in Anaheim either, so that's very unfortunate. The bottom 6 got an upgrade, but still, I'm not super hopeful about this Anaheim team. A lot of 80 overalls aside from Drysdale at 90, so again, it's better than some of the low 70s we've seen on teams this far into a franchise mode. Cedric Keefe at an 89 overall. He probably took up a lot of the money that could have gone to McTavish, so he signed on for 2 more years. Cutter Gauthier, now 28 years of age, listed as a first-line forward with his 89 overall. 5-star physical, 4.5 puck skills, defense, shooting, all that lovely, lovely stuff. After 2 years in Anaheim that saw him score 65 and 59 points and not make it to the postseason in either year, let's see if his third season with the Ducks can be any better. Another 40-win season, but another postseason miss for Cutter Gauthier and the Ducks, as Anaheim finishes 24th in the NHL despite a record of 40, 38, and 4. Gauthier improved and had his best season as a Duck as he posted 27 goals and 40 assists for 67 points in 82 games. Brady Tkachuk was added to the team as well, although it didn't help them make the postseason, and he's on an expiring contract, so we'll see if he stays on to next season. Gauthier was a -4 and only had 54 penalty minutes, kind of low relatively speaking to what he's done previously. 11 power play points while playing over 21 minutes of ice time per night, a new career high. At the end of his 9th NHL season, he is 29 years of age, still an 89 overall. Not much change in the attributes that have pretty much plateaued at this point, barring any big changes in his performance, but it's hard to do that when the team isn't really clicking exactly. It's a difficult situation for Gauthier, but he still has a lot of hockey ahead of him, and let's hope for a postseason berth finally in year number 12. In the 2033 draft, both the Kraken and the Ducks move up in a big way in the draft lottery as the Ducks jump from 9 to 2. So the Kraken, who jumped as well, get an 83 overall medium elite centerman, and the Ducks with the 2nd overall pick get another centerman, medium elite 79 overall, who is a playmaker, 86 passing off the bat, some great X factors. So hopefully he will be a big piece for the Ducks moving forward. Other options that they could have gotten include an 81 overall medium elite two-way forward and an 81 overall medium elite sniper. But the Ducks go with the centerman, and hopefully that will be a great decision for them moving into the future. Year number 12, Cutter Gauthier's 10th NHL season, and he's still first-line left wing with the Ducks. Lupul now an 81. Zegras on the wing, okay. Saric, that 2nd overall pick, now 2nd-line center. Hayton there on the 2nd line. It's a very odd lineup in Anaheim. On defense, at least, Jamie Drysdale's still there. Thomas Harley has joined the pack, and Keefe is still here, 1 more year on his contract. So Cutter Gauthier, 3 years of between 59 and 67 points. 3 postseason misses. He still has all of the potential to have a crazy breakout season. He's never gotten into the 70s, the 80s, been point per game, or had more than 33 goals, which is very good, but for a guy with his attributes, you would think that he'd be able to do more, and I hope that he can here in 2033-34, a season in which Anaheim will be desperate to make the postseason. Nope, another letdown in year number 12 as the Ducks finish 29th in the NHL to obviously miss the postseason with a losing record of 32, 42, and 8. Cutter Gauthier stayed consistent, scoring 17 goals and 49 assists for 66 points in 81 games, not 82, missing a game with the Ducks for the first time. It was a career high in assists with 49, and his 174 shots was the lowest since his rookie season, so more of a playmaker type year from Gauthier, who was a -5, had 70 penalty minutes, 13 power play points, and set a new career high in average ice time per night by quite a bit with 22 minutes and 20 seconds on average per game. He maintains his 89 overall status. None of his attributes have changed. The Ducks will be on the uptrend moving forward with all these great prospects, but will Gauthier be sticking around long enough with only 2 seasons left on his contract here in Anaheim? Hopefully Anaheim management can get something going over the 2034 offseason, so that 2034-35 will not be a season spent in the basement of the league. Year number 13, and the Anaheim Ducks have finally dug into their pockets a little bit. Cutter Gauthier is now playing on the first line with Cole Sillinger as his first-line centerman, signed to a 3-year deal. Isaac Roseyan on the right. Second line is Lupul, Saric, who's grown to an 86, and Fabian Lysell. Third line is where Trevor Zegras is as an 88 overall, so that'll change over time, but very odd lines to start the year. Josh Norris, 4th line center. On defense, Drysdale has an 85 overall partner, and between the pipes, Cedric Keefe signed a 1-year contract as an 88 overall. So if there was ever a time for the Ducks to make the postseason and show something promising, it would be this year. Cutter Gauthier's 11th season in the NHL. His attributes have not changed in a few years now. I think maybe his shooting changed slightly as his attributes are now between 89 and 90. So maybe that'll mean something as he had a very playmaking type season last year. But fingers crossed and hoping for the best in year number 13. Year number 13 is an improvement from last season, but another mid-tier type finish for the Ducks as they placed 20th in the NHL with a record of 39, 36, and 7. Here in year number 13, Cutter Gauthier had his lowest statistical season since year number 6 and his lowest since joining the Ducks. He scored 16 goals and 34 assists for only 50 points on the top line through 77 games, and even plus minus 67 penalty minutes, only 162 shots on net, the lowest of his career, 12 power play points, all while averaging 10 seconds shy of 21 minutes per night. A weird season for Gauthier now at the age of 31, headed into the final year of his deal here with the Ducks. It feels like it has flown by because not much has really happened at all. He maintains the 89 overall status, no changes to his attributes, getting paid a lot of money to not do that much. It's unfortunate for him, but maybe a change of scenery would be best. Trevor Zegras, this guy, 45-point season. I don't know what's going on with him. I've seen him score 90, 100 plus. So in this universe, just not going well with Cutter Gauthier on the team. Meanwhile, the other first-liners, Sillinger and Rosein, score 71 points each. Rosein, an 81 overall playmaker. I don't know how he does it, but Gauthier only scores 50 points with all of his ice time. Regardless, headed into 2035-36, Gauthier will try to go out with a bang, and hopefully the Ducks management over the course of the offseason can try to improve the team further and get them into a postseason at least once before Gauthier and the team considers parting ways. Alright, year number 14 in Anaheim, the top 6 is looking much stronger than usual. Gauthier, an 89 overall, is playing with Saric, who now he himself is at an 89 overall, with Isaac Rosein as an 81, who's coming off a 71-point season. Second line, Zegras, Sillinger, and Lysell, so the top 6 is more promising than recent memory. The defense, Simon Nemec has joined the Anaheim Ducks now, so that's a great defensive core. Nemec, Arkhipov, and Drysdale, who's getting older but still produces very well. Nemec as a 91 is huge right there. He has fantastic attributes all around. We've already done his career simulation, so be sure to check that one out. Goaltending is the biggest issue. It's still an 83 overall, backed up by a 79. Not horrible, but not quite 88, 89 overall territory. Cutter Gauthier at the age of 31 is still an 89 overall. Not much to say on his attributes. He should be able to put up a better season than he did last year in what may be his last shot here with the Ducks. With only 2 postseason berths through 11 NHL seasons, let's hope that his 12th in the league will have more success. In year number 14, the Anaheim Ducks finally made the postseason for the first time in Gauthier's 6 years with the team. The Ducks finished 12th in the NHL with a record of 43, 26, and 13. Once again, despite being on that first line, Gauthier did not have great numbers. He scored 19 goals and 28 assists for 47 points in 75 games. That put him on a pace of 51 and 82, but regardless, his lowest offensive output season since I think maybe 2027-28 back in year number 6. Really odd stuff from Gauthier, who hasn't been shooting that much either. He was a plus 17, 55 penalty minutes, which was less than usual. 6 power play points, 5 shorthanded points, and averaging over 21.5 minutes of ice time per night. Gauthier also fails to hit 20 goals for the 3rd straight season, something that he was able to do for 5 consecutive years with the Flyers. Regardless, he is in the postseason for the first time in 6 years, and in that postseason saw some success, thankfully. The Ducks took down the Wild in 6 games in round number 1, but unfortunately dropped in 7 to Winnipeg in round number 2. The Jets would go on to lose in 6 to the Kings, who would go on to sweep the Stanley Cup final for the 2036 title. So it is unfortunate, but at least the Ducks got further than the first round. In those 13 games, Cutter Gauthier turned into a playmaker as he had 1 goal and 10 assists for 11 points in 13 games, but 26 penalty minutes as well in those 13 games. So definitely not helping his team, especially when he does power play, penalty kill. Him being in the box is a big issue. He was a plus 4. He was averaging over 22 minutes of ice time per night, but I'm sure that the penalties did not help, especially his lack of goal scoring not helping either. Regardless, he heads into the 2036 offseason as an unrestricted free agent at an 88 overall. I don't know if he'll be getting paid $11.85 million anymore after a few difficult seasons with the Ducks. 47 points this year, 50 the year before, but he's still an 88 overall, still has the 5-star physical, the 4.5 shooting and puck skills. He's fast, he hits, he shoots, he can do it all, but he may just need the right team. We'll see what gets hammered out in the 2036 offseason, headed into year number 15. In year number 15, Cutter Gauthier goes to unrestricted free agency and signs a 1-year prove-it-to-me contract with the Buffalo Sabres, paying him just over $7 million. Definitely a downgrade from what he was making previously, but after a couple of tough seasons, it makes sense as to why a team would want to sign him to a contract like that. He has a 90 overall two-way forward on his left, Donovan McFarland, and an 88 overall two-way forward on his right, Maxim Kolosov. He's been reunited with Josh Norris as well, who he had some time with in Anaheim. On defense, there's this guy Hyven, who's a 90 overall. Rasmus Dahlin still here at an 81 at the age of 36. Braden Claxton, an 85 overall starting goaltender. Not a crazy team, but definitely a serviceable one, especially that strong first line and solid defensive core. Cutter Gauthier is a first line centerman in the NHL for the first time in his career. All of his attributes still looking the same as always, as they haven't changed in quite a while now. But he will be looking to get back into the 20, 30 goal, 60 plus point category that he has been in many times before after a couple of lackluster years in Anaheim. He'll want to get to the postseason and get paid in the 2037 offseason, but it all starts here in 2036-37 with the Sabres. In year number 15, the Buffalo Sabres finished 4th in the NHL with a record of 48, 26, and 8, 104 points, and the winningest team that Gauthier has ever been a part of. Also back-to-back postseason berths for the first time in his career. Gauthier's numbers weren't crazy, but he did score 59 points, which is better than his last couple seasons. He played in all 82 games, scoring 18 goals and 41 assists. He's turning into a playmaker. I don't know what's going on, but when he was with Philadelphia, he was scoring more goals than assists. Now he's scoring more than twice as many assists as goals usually. Plus 17, 58 penalty minutes, and 11 power play points along the way, all while playing 1941 of ice time per night. In the postseason, the Sabres unfortunately dropped in 7 games to the Ottawa Senators in round number 1, who would go on to lose to the Bruins, who lost to the Penguins, who would go on to win the 2037 Cup. I believe that's Pittsburgh's 3rd Cup in the simulation. Despite not having a crazy offensive season, Gauthier was tied for the lead in points in the postseason, 4 goals and 6 points in 7 games for Gauthier, and he will wrap up 2037 as an 89 overall. Headed back to unrestricted free agency, will he want to re-sign with Buffalo after a very successful season? It was another sub-20 goal season for Gauthier, but I don't know, he's becoming a playmaker. He's changing his style, evolving over the years, but we'll see how that style continues to evolve depending on where he lands headed into year number 16. In year number 16, Cutter Gauthier once again moves in free agency and signs with the Vancouver Canucks on a 1-year deal, paying him $8.42 million. His time with Buffalo got him a $1.4 million increase in salary, and he'll try to do the same headed into another contract next season perhaps, but for the moment he's with Vancouver. He has Dalton Auld on his left, a sniper who's won multiple Maurice Richard trophies, so that's huge for him, especially if he's becoming a playmaker. This guy signed a contract paying him over $18 million a season. On his right, he has Miku Latuvuri, who is a playmaker. There's Gaspard de Champlain on the second line, some 84 overall there. Hopefully Gauthier and Auld can carry on that top line. The defense in Vancouver is passable for 2037, and the goaltender, an 87 overall named Darius Grantham. So you know what? There's potential from this Vancouver Canuck team. Gauthier is an 89 overall, centering that first line. If he's going to become a playmaker, then no problem. Playmake for Auld. We'll see how they do as the dynamic duo here in Vancouver for this 16th year and 14th season for Gauthier in the NHL. In year number 16, thanks to an especially weak Pacific Division, the Vancouver Canucks made the playoffs after finishing 21st in the league with a record of 40, 38, and 4. Very interesting, as only 3 teams made it from the Pacific, Vancouver being the last one, as the division was very weak. Despite it being with 3 different teams, Gauthier has now made the postseason in 3 consecutive seasons for the first time in his career. Honestly, Cutter Gauthier continues to really disappoint, as in 80 games, he scores 14 goals and 32 assists for 46 points, his lowest offensive output since year number 6 back in 2027-28, and the lowest number of goals that he has ever scored over the course of a season in his career. He was a negative 13 as well and posted 49 penalty minutes with 12 power play points, 1 shorthanded point, and played over 21.5 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, Vancouver did not last very long, as they lost in 5 games to the Vegas Golden Knights in round number 1, who would go on to lose in the conference finals to the Dallas Stars, who won the Stanley Cup in 7 games to capture the 2038 Cup. Gauthier continues to perform in the postseason, though, as he scored 3 goals and 5 points in 5 games before they got eliminated. He was a -7, which was not ideal, but only had 2 penalty minutes, so at least he's getting a bit more control in that regard. Very unfortunate, as somehow he's still an 89 overall after all of these poor offensive seasons. He's 34 years of age. I don't know what kind of contracts he'll get in free agency after a season like this one. He's been on 3 teams in 3 years, so he's racking up the air miles. We'll see what he does in the 2038 off season and whether or not he could finally sign long-term after a lot of these one-year deals. Year number 17, and Cutter Gauthier once again moves on to a new team in free agency as he signs another one-year deal, this time with the New Jersey Devils, only for $5.5 million. So this could be a huge low-risk, high-reward situation for the Devils. He's an 88 overall on that first line, playing with this centerman Nikolai Afanasenkov, who's an 89 overall sniper with 5-star shooting. And on the right, there's Cody Glennie, another sniper who has 99 slap and wrist shot accuracy. So that could be a very high-scoring first line. Benson, Ramirez, high overall players in the top 6. Pinelli and McFarland, who Gauthier played with in Buffalo, are both here as well. On defense, there's 91 overall David Jiricek. Goaltending is an 89 backed up by an 85. So you know what? This Devils team on paper looks very impressive. Gauthier now at the age of 34 with all of those same attributes. His skating is coming down slightly, now 89 acceleration and 88 speed. His aggressiveness down to 89, body checking and strength to 94. So slowly that's starting to drop, but he still has the puck skills, the awarenesses, the shooting, and on that top line, it could be a great season here in New Jersey, where Gauthier will be looking to recapture some of the magic that he hasn't had for a few years now and keep up his streak of making the postseason. In year number 17, the New Jersey Devils make the postseason, winning the Metropolitan Division and having a 5th place finish in the NHL. They had 101 points and a record of 47, 28, and 7, the 4th consecutive playoff berth for Cutter Gauthier on 4 different teams. In year number 17, Cutter Gauthier scored over 20 goals for the first time since year number 11, back in 2032-33. He scored 23 goals and 37 assists for 60 points through 78 games. The most points he's scored since 2033-34, year number 12, so great to see him back in the 60s. He missed 4 games, but that's all right, still a great season there. A -1, 73 penalty minutes as he was getting involved in the action, 11 power play points, all while averaging over 21.5 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, Cutter Gauthier made it to the Eastern Conference Final for the 2nd time in his career as they took down the Rangers in 5, the Islanders in 6, but then lost in 6 to the Blue Jackets, who went on to lose in 7 in the Stanley Cup Final to the Chicago Blackhawks. In those 17 games, the most that Gauthier had ever played in a single postseason, he continues his pace of going over a point per game as he scored 8 goals and 11 assists for 19 points in 17 games. He was a +13, had 17 penalty minutes. Shout out to Jiricek, who had 34. 3 game-winning goals and playing over 21 minutes of ice time per night. An unfortunate loss for the Devils, but great to see Gauthier getting more postseason action. After this 17th year and 15th in the NHL, Gauthier is now 35 years of age and an 88 overall. The skating continues to drop a little bit as it's now at 3.5 stars, but his defense continues to be solid as it's 4.5 with the 90 defensive awareness. His body checking and strength both back up to 95. So after a solid season, I would think that Gauthier would get more money in free agency, but does he commit to a team? Does he stay in New Jersey, or does he look for a 5th team in 5 years? So let's see what we have in store for year number 18. In year number 18, Cutter Gauthier once again finds a new team to land with. He signs with the Detroit Red Wings, once again a 1-year contract, this time paying him $7.505 million. A couple more million than last year, so it goes to show that it was a good season with the Devils. He is an 87 overall who now has exact top 6 potential and is listed as a 2nd-line forward. Still the 5-star physical, but 4.5 shooting, senses, and defense to make up for the 4-star puck skills and 3.5-star skating, which is now going down to the 87 acceleration and 87 speed. He is 1st-line left wing with Guy Methot as his 1st-line centerman, a 2-way forward and a sniper respectively. The top 6 is not too bad. DeAndre Brashear, Donald Brashear's son, is out here perhaps. Ron Swanson's on the fourth line. Reed Swanson, there you go. Defense, we don't have anything that really stands out. And goaltending is an 84 overall, Charles Hogan. So that being said, I don't know if it's going to be a great year in Detroit, as Gauthier doesn't quite have the support that he had in New Jersey, but he is just chasing that cup, making some money along the way with these one-year contracts. I'm really surprised he hasn't committed anywhere, but it's another one-year deal. We'll see if it was a good decision from Cutter Gauthier and the Wings. In year number 18, which was not a surprise to many, the Detroit Red Wings finished 28th in the NHL with a losing record of 38, 40, and 4. Shout out to the Canucks, who went 18, 52, and 12. Out of nowhere, Cutter Gauthier scores 84 points, a new career high by 15. His previous high was 69 points back in 2026-27. 28 goals is one shy of his career high. 56 assists is a new career high. All done in 80 games, by the way, so he's probably on pace for 85, 86 points. He was a plus 19, had 60 penalty minutes, 16 power play points, 5 shorthanded points, and playing over 22 minutes of hockey per night. What a season from Cutter Gauthier, who just exploded here on the Wings, despite them not being a very good team. He maintains 88 overall status, or actually re-ups back to 88, because he was an 87 to start the year. Listed as a first-line forward once again, still with the top 6 potential. He now has 5-star puck skills, defense, senses, and physical. So some of the best star attributes of his career. The skating is continuing to go down at 3.5. Shooting still solid enough at 4 stars. You know what? Headed to free agency, coming off of a big year like that, I could see a big payday for 1 or 2 seasons before retirement, and that may be his last push at a cup. Year number 19, and Cutter Gauthier continues to rack up the air miles as he now joins the New York Rangers on another one-year deal, this time paying him $8.105 million. He always wants that extra $5,000. It's very funny. This is now the 5th consecutive one-year contract that he signs, the last 3 slowly increasing in value as he seems to be getting better with age. He now has top 9 potential, but he's still an 88 overall with 5-star physical, senses, puck skills, and defense, with 4-star shooting and 3.5 skating. Who knows? Maybe he can continue on last year's 84-point season. He has Toni Jokinen, a 90 overall power forward with 5-star shooting on his left, and Marek Fedotenko, an 82 overall playmaker with 95 passing and 5-star puck skills on his right. That could be a great first line for the Rangers. Brad Lambert's out here. The forward core is not too bad. The defense is somewhat passable for 2,040, and the goaltending is 286 overall, so that should be at least a bit more solid in that regard. Cutter Gauthier, now at the age of 36, is into his 17th NHL season, chasing that cup, going through basically every team in the Metropolitan Division to do so. Hopefully 2040-41 could be a year that sees him go far in the postseason. In year number 19, Cutter Gauthier returned to the postseason as the New York Rangers won the Metropolitan Division with a 4th place finish in the NHL. 48, 29, and 5 was their record. Cutter Gauthier had another 80-point season. The last 2 years of his career have been his best. 27 goals and 53 assists for 80 points in 82 games from Cutter. He was a plus 24, only 49 penalty minutes, 16 power play points, and averaging over 19.5 minutes of ice time per night. A great season from him. I don't know where he'd been hiding those skills from like years 13 to 16 or whatever, but really, really happy to see him get those back-to-back 80-point campaigns. However, in the postseason, the New York Rangers dropped in 5 games to the Blue Jackets, who lost to the Devils, who lost to the Lightning, who lost to the President's Trophy winning 60-win San Jose Sharks. So the New York Rangers were the biggest losers of the postseason. Cutter Gauthier remains over point per game in the postseason in his career, as in those 5 games he scored 3 goals and 4 assists for 7 points. He was a plus 2 along the way, and after this 17th NHL season, he now is an 85 overall with that top 9 potential at the age of 37, headed into the 2041 off season. He only has 5-star physical. Everything else is 3 or 4 stars. Everything's starting to come down slowly now, which could mean retirement, but you'd think after 2 really good years, the market would be there for him. It'll really depend if the heart is in it, because the body is, but it always comes down to the heart. In year number 20, Cutter Gauthier returns to the Buffalo Sabres, the team that he played on in 2036-37, where he scored 18 goals and 59 points in 82 games and had a first-round exit with. He is now back here in 2041-42, and he signed a 2-year contract. No more 1-year deals for Cutter Gauthier, paying him $11.1 million per season, a total of $22.2 million if he plays both seasons. Definitely getting paid as a result of those last two 80-plus point seasons. Cutter Gauthier is now centering the second line in Buffalo with Nick Ferrelli on his left and Grant Reynolds on his right. A sniper on his right and a power forward on his left, by the way. The top line in Buffalo is pretty solid, but the forward core as a whole is a bit weak. Defense, it's pretty much just this guy Oliver Stützle, who's leading the way as an 86. And goaltending, there is Darius Grantham, who we've seen already, who's starting for the Sabres. Cutter Gauthier, at the age of 37, is an 85 overall with bottom 6 potential, so it has to be a good season or else his overall will continue to drop quite a bit. Still a 5-star physical, but 4-star everything else aside from the 3-star skating, 84 acceleration, 84 speed, but still 88 offensive awareness, 88 and 89 shooting accuracy and power. Could he get it done in Buffalo with some weaker line mates? I'm not so certain, but after the last 2 years of his offensive output, hopefully he can keep it up, and we'll be able to see another postseason run for Cutter Gauthier, who always loves to show up in the playoffs. In year number 20, the Buffalo Sabres won the Atlantic Division and finished 7th in the NHL with a great record of 46, 30, and 6. Cutter Gauthier didn't quite score 80 points, but will take 63 and 82 from the 38-year-old. 18 goals and 45 assists on the year from him. He was a -5, only 33 penalty minutes. He's getting pretty calm in his older age. And he had 11 power play points as well, as he averaged just over 18 minutes of ice time per night. In a season that saw him return to the postseason for the 6th time in 7 years. And in that postseason run, the Buffalo Sabres took down the Bruins in round number 1, but lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Toronto Maple Leafs in round number 2 in 6 games. Leaf fans, 2042, put it on your calendar, Stanley Cup championship, but very unfortunate that another run for Cutter Gauthier ends in the second round. Cutter Gauthier wasn't quite point per game in the postseason, but he still put up a goal and 6 assists for 7 points through those 13 games, a +4 with 8 penalty minutes. And at the end of his 18th year in the NHL, he is now down to an 80 overall, listed as a third-line checking forward with that bottom 6 potential. He'll likely continue to regress over the offseason as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does call it a career this offseason, but he is signed for 1 more season should he decide to come back. The physical took a big hit this season, now down to 3.5 stars, 83 aggressiveness and 87 body checking with 86 strength. The skating isn't half bad for a 38-year-old, and the shooting's still there, but nonetheless, he is an 80 overall, getting paid a lot of money. Will he take the money, or will he just say, my heart's not quite in it anymore? A good offensive season he can be proud of, but now the question is, will he call it a career in 2042, or run it back for 1 more? In year number 21, Cutter Gauthier decides not to retire because he's still getting paid a lot of money, but Buffalo says we don't got to play you in the NHL. It's unfortunate because this isn't super realistic. I'd like to end the simulation here and have him retire, but we don't get to control that. He is still playing. He wants to try and get a Calder Cup if he can't get a Stanley Cup, so all the power to him, getting paid $11.1 million. Why not? He is now listed as a depth forward with AHL top 6 potential at a 77 overall. His attributes are all between 3 and 3.5 stars, so we won't spend much on this season, but here's how he's looking, and hopefully he can do something to give him a little bit of fulfillment here in 2042-43 with the Rochester Americans. In year number 21, Cutter Gauthier and the Rochester Americans miss out on the postseason with a 21st place finish in the AHL with a record of 39, 37, and 6. For some reason, Gauthier got called back up to Buffalo after the season ended, so I can't go and look at his stats in relation to the rest of his team, but in 70 games with Rochester, he scored 13 goals and 37 assists for a 50-point year with the Americans down in the AHL, and continues to regress down to a 74 overall with the role of other forward. At 39 years of age, now with everything between 2.5 and 3 stars, I think it's definitely likely that Gauthier will call it a career, and it makes sense after he stayed for 1 more year, making another $11.1 million. You can't fault the guy, but I think it's time to call it a career. And in the 2043 offseason, Cutter Gauthier does do just that, retiring with 1,066 points in 1,441 games, scoring 409 goals and 657 assists along the way. A very interesting career for Gauthier that saw him go from Philly to Anaheim and then jump around many teams in many years. Buffalo, Vancouver, New Jersey, Detroit, New York, back to Buffalo, then an AHL stint with Rochester. Going through all of these numbers right now to wrap up his career. He started his career as more of a goal scorer. He had years in Philadelphia, 33 goals, 29 assists, 29 goals, 20 assists. But he never really got back to that after he left Philadelphia. He never scored more than 33. His 3 highest goal scoring seasons were with the Flyers as well, and 4 of his top 5 were with the Flyers. Assists-wise, his highest was with Detroit when he scored 56, the Rangers 53, the Ducks 49, so not as much of a playmaker with the Flyers, and his highest point seasons were with Detroit and New York. In 2 of his last 4 years, there 84 and 80 points respectively. His plus-minus was never that great. His best was plus 24, his worst was negative 13. He was often negative by just a little or plus by just a little. He goes out as a plus 59 in his career. He had 1,071 penalty minutes as well, as high as 78 and as low as 33 in an NHL season. High discipline, but with that 5-star physical, he got in a little bit of trouble, and it makes sense as a 6'3", 6'2" power forward. He also joins the exclusive club of 1,000 plus points and 1,000 plus penalty minutes, so hats off for that. He took over 3,300 shots and had a 12.2 shooting percentage. 51 of his 409 goals were game winners. 88 of them were on the power play. 210 of his 1,066 points were on the power play. 11 shorthanded goals, 19 shorthanded points. He averaged 20 minutes and 13 seconds of ice time per night in his career. He played as high as 22.20 per night in the NHL. 22.49, by the way, in the AHL with Rochester in his final season. And he played as low as 17.53, so he usually had a good amount of ice time, you gotta say. Over 29,100 minutes on the ice. He took quite a few faceoffs. Being a left-wing center, he took quite a few. Was never that great. 43.14% in his career. Season where he was really a centerman, as low as like 41%, as high as 47 in an NHL centerman season. But he took over 20,000 faceoffs and won 8,630 of them. He threw many hits, 3,104 hits thrown. That was something I didn't really touch upon in the simulation. He never threw less than 140 in an NHL season, despite his age. That makes him one of only 6 players in NHL history to throw over 3,000 hits, and would put him 5th all-time, with only Alex Ovechkin, Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck, and Dustin Brown above him. He blocked 334 shots, nothing too crazy in that regard. 840 giveaways, 1,717 takeaways, so stronger defensively as well. But you gotta really be impressed at his postseason numbers. In the playoffs, he scored 25 goals and 48 assists for 73 points in 77 games. No matter his age, he was very consistently point per game or over. Had 19 points in 17 games with the Devils, his furthest run. He had a couple of Eastern Conference finals, but no Stanley Cup finals, no Stanley Cups, no hardware or anything to show for his career. Very unfortunate there. A plus 23 in the postseason through those 77 games and 71 penalty minutes. 198 shots, 6 game-winning goals, 14 power play points, averaging 1943 of ice time. He was 45.99 on the dot, 164 hits, 15 blocks, 61 giveaways, and 71 takeaways. So of course, when we're looking at records comparing 2022, the present day, to this 2043 alternate universe, it's always impossible to predict what's going to happen. But as of today, just to get an idea, if he were to retire with these numbers, Cutter Gauthier's 1,441 games played would put him 30th all-time, ahead of Mike Gartner and behind Tim Horton. His 409 goals would put him 95th all-time, ahead of Zach Parise and behind Ray Bourque. His 657 assists would put him 68th all-time, ahead of Brett Hall and behind Jarome Iginla. And his 1,066 points would put him 70th all-time, ahead of Keith Tkachuk and behind Anze Kopitar. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A big career for Cutter Gauthier. This was a difficult graphic to make as he went all over the NHL. A couple of years in the Phillies farm system with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. 6 years with Philadelphia. He moves on in free agency as they choose to sign Couturier and McLennan. They don't have the money for Gauthier. Anaheim gives him a big contract, over $69 million. 6 years with the Ducks, had some good numbers, but only one second-round exit to show for it. Then he proceeds to jump around to Buffalo, Vancouver, New Jersey, Detroit, New York, and back to Buffalo again. A lot of different teams, but no great postseason success to show for it, unfortunately. Very interesting how he only made the postseason twice in his first 11 seasons in the NHL, but then proceeded to make the postseason in 6 of his final 7 seasons, but still not much more to show for it than that Eastern Conference final exit with the Devils in 2039. When looking at his 82-game average, we see that he was usually good for over 20 goals and over 35 assists for usually around 60 points. Those 80-plus point seasons close to the end of his career definitely boosting those numbers a little bit. He was oftentimes in the 40s, 50s, 60s. He had a great start to his career. Then we started jumping around from team to team. He seemed to be struggling a little bit. Maybe couldn't find his consistency or what. But regardless, he was a talented player in the league who had 19 NHL seasons to show what he had. He made a lot of money along the way, and I enjoyed the simulation very much. As always, a ton of work, but so fun to see the final product of. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and also drop a comment with your thoughts on it down here in the YouTube comments. If you're a Flyers fan, I apologize it didn't stay longer than 6 years, but if you do enjoy watching Philadelphia Flyers content, be sure to check out our Flyers franchise mode series on NHL 22. I'll put a card at the end of the video, or you can explore on the channel where you'll find much more that I'm sure that you'll enjoy. Other NHL franchise mode series, career simulations as we're going through many of the class of the 2022 draft, breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, and much more. So if you enjoyed this, I'm sure you'd enjoy much of what else goes on the channel. While you check that out, do be sure to subscribe as we are approaching 5,000 subscribers, a huge milestone. And I thank all of you for helping the channel get to that point. You know, a little off-season fun, a little downtime in the summer, but with NHL 23 and the real 2022-23 season coming up, you won't want to miss out on anything being posted here, so be sure that you are subscribed because you'll definitely want to see our upcoming career simulations. Many suggestions from Marco Kasper, for David Jiricek, so be sure to leave all of your suggestions in the comments as well for the next simulation. But I will go ahead and leave you off there, so thank you once more for taking the time to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.